Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Before we begin, I want to touch on a few housekeeping items. So, we have a couple of technical and content-related questions during the presentation. If you have some, please use the Q&A window, and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar. There's a closed captioning that's available by selecting the CC button at the bottom right corner of your media player screen. You can also expand, minimize, and move each of the window panes displayed on your screen as needed. This presentation is being recorded, and we will send all registrants a link to the recording post-webinar. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters today. All of these key players were part of the Worthington project. We have Matt and Mohit from Worthington. We have Doug from Oracle and Greg from Argonaut. So I am going to hand it over to Greg.
Okay, thanks, Kate, and thank you all for joining us today. A little bit about Argonaut, just overall. You know, we're a leader in enabling digital foundations. Our focus with advisory services includes identifying innovation opportunities that are going to help you transform and improve business operations. We're a global operation or a global organization with a presence in nearly every continent. Our focus includes multi-cloud, multi-technology, and then professional services that help drive our customer initiatives to successful end. We work with some of the largest organizations in the world. We've got some 1,400 clients that we do business with globally. As you can see, you know, from this slide here, our North America presence includes U.S., Canada, Mexico, as well as operations and service centers in India, Argentina, and some of the other European entities. Argonaut for Oracle. So within Argonaut, we have an Oracle tower, and you're all here because you want to hear one of our implementation stories around the Oracle footprint. With nearly 800 consultants with Oracle capabilities across CX, EPM, ERP, and HCM, we are one of the very few firms in North America that can cover the entire footprint. And I can tell you just from driving these projects myself, starting somebody with CX and CPQ and being able to take them all the way through ERP, HCM, and all the way into transportation management, for example. That's a very uncommon and broad capability, and we're very proud of our firm for that. We deliver best-in-class solutions. We focus on business processes and prescriptive templates so that you can take advantage of our learnings over time and how to best deliver your solutions. We're recognized and awarded in the Oracle ecosystem. Greater than 55 awards have been provided or awarded to us, but based on the quality of our work and the satisfaction of our customers. Our NPS average score is 79, and to put that in perspective, some of the larger SIs, you know, will score in the 40s. The NPS metric is customer satisfaction over time, and so, you know, we're very proud that we not only deliver solutions, but we make our customers happy, and they hire us again. Some over 1,200 successful cloud implementations. So if you go out and look at this ecosystem, you can see the investments we made in our cloud acumen and in being a partner with Oracle, and the Oracle client end users has driven us to having a wide variety of successes. And then 70 plus years of combined partnerships. So the cumulative opportunity for us and you all there listening is high. We've got the experience, we've got the depth, we've got the consistent presence over the years to help you in terms of where you want to go with your transformation initiatives. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend Mohit.
Thanks, Greg.
I'm sorry, my bad.
All right. All this practicing, Greg. We still screw. My name is Matt Schlabig. I'm the CIO of Worthington Industries. Been here about almost 12 years. Worthington's a traditional manufacturing company, and a big part of our business is steel processing. So we're not a steel mill, but we're the third largest purchaser of steel in the United States. We buy steel from the mill and we process it. That's cut it to length, pull it to gauge, and finish it, whether it's galvanized or any other types of finish. And then our finished products go into auto manufacturing, heavy equipment, anything you can think of made out of steel is a good chance that we process it. The other part of our business is pressurized cylinders. Only thing that's pressurized, like propane gas tank that sits on your gas grill, to a torch tank, a water tank, a helium tank, compressed natural gas bus system tanks. You see some of our brands there. That's another big part of our business. And then we have several joint ventures in similar products and some complementary products. And we're based in U.S., Canada, Mexico, and a couple countries in Europe, China, and India. So we are, for a medium-sized manufacturing company, we're pretty spread out. Our Oracle journey. So we're a legacy ERP. We have been since 2007, gone through some major upgrades around 12.2.10. But we started our cloud journey a few years ago. And most recently, we completed our Oracle Planning Cloud. So our cloud products are HCM, Configure Price Quote, Planning Cloud, and Sales Cloud. So we are kind of a hybrid cloud environment right now with further plans to continue this cloud journey. I'm going to turn here to Mohit in a second, but we have ASCP and Demantra we used to have. It worked okay, but our business, with the way we purchase steel, steel's a commodity. When you purchase it at $1,500 a ton, and then 8 months later it's worth $600 a ton, that's an expensive commodity to have on your books. So the need to really manage our inventory, the right amounts, so days of supply, days on hand, days of finished good, and where the steel was delivered to. So we have 11 steel plants for Worthington Steel, and then a joint venture called TWB. We have 10 of those plants. So the ability to get the right amount of steel shipped at the right time to the right location, while still maintaining on-time delivery of about 91%. So it's a big deal for us to hold, tons and tons of steel while the commodity market, steel pricing going up and down. So if anybody manages inventory on the call and they know what FIFO is, it's a big deal to us. It can turn into a lot of money. So Mohit, who's the enterprise architect and the main guy for this project, will take it from here.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, I'm Mohit Shukla, and I'm the enterprise architect at Worthington Industries. So I'll just briefly cover these program initiative, like what were the business drivers for this one. So our legacy, or you can say previous state, was that we were using Demantra and ASCP along with the business suite. And our ASCP was decentralized, and so we were having like 3 different production instances, one for Demantra, one for ASCP, and e-business suite. And the process in Demantra for generating the forecast and entering the forecast was pretty much manual. And we were not getting the good forecast accuracy because of a lot of missing data related to the product, like customer part number or the raw material and the product categories, which was not available in Demantra. So the forecast accuracy was bad, and the messages, and because the forecast was bad, then supply planning, because of that, was not generating the correct messages to reduce our inventory. So we looked at this solution, and we think it will be a good fit for us. The next slide is for Doug, I guess. Then
we can touch on this, and then we can jump over to more detail on that. And Yeah, my name's Doug Odinger. I was involved up front from an Oracle standpoint as far as coordinating the resources and activity, working with Worthington. And, I think I wanted to highlight some things that I saw as preconditions for success, because I think they were critical to, to help see that, Worthington get to the point where they're at today. We first engaged around this in July of 2020. Interestingly, it was like the first face-to-face meeting after the initial COVID lockdowns that we had started in March. So it was good to get out and in front of people and customers and see if I could actually, maintain any basic social cues and awareness. But also things were very dynamic for Worthington at this time. There was a drop off at the start of COVID, but then it started going great guns with substantial demand later on. So there was a lot of spinning plates that Worthington had, but they were able to maintain focus on what they needed longer term. So the good things I really wanted to highlight were on the screen here. First of all, there were some pretty strong legacy approaches and defined processes with how they planned and operated things like the sales and operation planning process. So this was critical to building that bridge between what was being done then, the gaps that have been identified, and what were the capabilities that Supply Chain Cloud Solutions could drive for Worthington. So it helped us understand what was needed, and it helped Worthington understand in a relevant fashion what was possible. So, these often don't get surfaced or understood well enough as part of an RFX process, but Worthington did a really good job here. Skipping down to like the third bullet, I appreciate the fact that there was engagement at a pretty deep level within business and IT and across applications and implementation. So nothing was totally isolated. They all influenced each other. And Matt, I know you're instrumental throughout the process, but we had a lot of great engagement with people like Frank Roberto and Brian Rose and others to make sure, again, that the technology had a good opportunity to fit with the business. And this went a lot farther than, sometimes these processes for complex solutions are done as like 3 bids and a buy. That wasn't the case here. There was deep involvement throughout. I think another thing to really highlight that Worthington spent a significant amount of time on the business case, which highlighted in the second bullet. Now, of course, it's typically done as part of any justification for a capital or budget allocation requirements. But Worthington really took the extra time to make sure that they were reviewing priority capabilities that we presented and how they could drive benefit and ROI. The business case should really be tied to those capabilities, like a map to the destination. If you don't know the destination, any road will not get you there, right? And I also see customers suffer from cats with laser pointer syndrome. Right? They get distracted with things that might be able to be done instead of keeping a focus on what's really going to drive value, because you can't do everything all at once in the first rollout. And I think Worthington, tried to manage that as best they could. And then lastly, I think they did a good job with leveraging what could be done with Oracle. Now, Oracle may not want me to highlight this too much, but Oracle really is in a unique position to do a number of things, many of which Worthington really did take advantage of as part of the process. For those that have legacy supported on-premise applications for Oracle, there's an opportunity to do customer to cloud credit that can discount the cost. They can also take advantage of shelving. And then also because, which allows you to be supported as you make that transition to cloud. And then finally, because of Oracle's resources and structure, we can do some things that smaller private equity led or niche providers really cannot. And this could be things like, financing or quarterly payments to match outlays with benefits, et cetera. And I credit Worthington with really knowing what was important to them and what Oracle could do, and really taking advantage of that. And I'll hand it back.
Thanks, Doug. So this was our legacy state. As I said earlier, that we were using Demantra and ASCP along with the e-business suite, which was connected. And for S&OP, the process was pretty much manual. We were having like Excel sheets, And I want to add one more thing here. Our ATP for the order management was based on planning output. So it was expecting ASCP to generate the planned output, and we were promising our customer based on that. Because as soon as you move from ASCP to Oracle Planning Cloud, that connection between the e-business suite and the planning system will get broken. So you have to leverage global order promising for the ATP. So this was our future state, or you can say current state now. So we are using demand management, supply planning, S&OP planning, and the global order promising. And the idea was to minimize the manual processes or the sheets what we maintain, and do and rely on the system what it is generating, and automate the processes as much as we can. So I'll just cover briefly what are the benefits what we are seeing right now in different modules. So in supply planning, it can really generate a detailed supply plans, like providing a holistic view. So suppose if you have if your item has a supply chain that spans across organization, you do one operation at one organization, and then it goes to the other for the final assembly. You can track all that in one screen by creating a build plan, and it will show that this organization will buy this material from this organization, which was not the case in ASCP. You have to query it multiple times. The simulation sets and the what if analysis, what if I bring this raw material early, what if I change the capacity, all these what if analysis are pretty easy in Oracle Planning Cloud. And same thing with the exceptions. They are very much grouped into the criteria, and you can just look into those ones, and buyers and planners are saving a lot of time looking at those exception messages. Same thing with the demand planning. So as I said earlier, in Dementor, a lot of information was missing. And with this Oracle Planning Cloud and the standard extract, or you can say standard integration, I won't call it integration, but the standard extract, which extracts the product related and the customer related data from the e-business suite, takes care of most of the data entities. So you can send all your product categories and customer part number, and if you maintain some inventory categories, which can help your sales rep or your demand planners to forecast it better. That definitely helps, because we are doing that. We are sending customer part numbers and all the product related product feature, product mixes, what's the channel, and also the raw material, like the primary raw material. Some of the OEM parts are very specific, and we forecast them based on the raw material. So we are now sending all that information to Oracle Planning Cloud, so that it becomes easier for the sales reps to forecast based on that, and not just enter the forecast for each and every product. Now moving on to sales and operation planning. So we have created a lot of KPIs, which we were calculating it manually earlier, like the inventory progression, days of inventory and days of supply, and ship tons per day. So all this can be configured by defining measures within the plan, and you can get all that data in the system, instead of tracking it manually or calculating that in Excel sheets, which is too time consuming. So with this, and we have some more KPIs, which we are in the process of implementing that in the system, so that we can reduce or minimize the amount of effort which goes in the S&OP planning every month. So with that, I'll open the forum for the questions.
Yeah, so we thought we would have a roundtable discussion to continue to build on the presentation that we just made, to talk to Worthington about the drivers of the project, and just a little bit less deck oriented and a little bit more conversational. And so there's a couple questions that I think I would pose, Matt, probably, maybe talk about what was the Worthington, before cloud story. Kind of how did you see ERP, and can you share with the audience what took you towards the cloud from that before state?
Yeah, so like a lot of companies, right, we went full-blown ERP many years ago and made a lot of customizations, extensions, kind of fit our business. Went through some pretty big upgrades. Argonaut, formerly CSS, helped us with our first major upgrade. We continue to kind of to tweak ERP and do some more and more extensions and a lot of chemleys. But over time, we knew that wasn't sustainable. In the meantime, Oracle was driving more and more capabilities. We'd go through an upgrade and not really leverage or exploit upgraded functionality. So that's when we really started to think, we knew we had to get there eventually. So we, started picking this off one at a time. We could have done it by business unit or by one of our joint ventures, but we decided to do it by module. So that's where we are right now.
Gotcha. And maybe another question here, and Mohit, probably in your wheelhouse is, what were some of the requirements around this particular implementation that were specific to Worthington, the unique things that we sought to address with the implementation of Oracle Planning Cloud?
Yeah, I'll tell. So I won't call it like unique, but I guess every customer who is using Demantra will face this, that in Demantra, there is like matrix level security where the salesperson or we call it TM, so it's territory manager, but salesperson only see the data relevant to them, the products which belongs to them, the customer side which belongs to them. And in demand management, that functionality is not there, but there is that functionality is there in S&OP planning. So you can configure the salesperson based security, and by enabling, and it's a standard configuration. Once you enable that only the salesperson which is assigned to that any specific customer site will only see the products which are relevant to him and will not see the data for all the company, so that it takes a lot of time for him to figure out which forecast he has to enter. So that was a requirement for us as well. And that's why we changed that. And now our salesperson enter the forecast in S&OP planning. And that's how we tackled it.
Gotcha. That's good. And so, I guess kind of back to, or I'll stick with you, Mohit, on a question. Were there any solution points with the Planning Cloud that you thought stood out or helped enable and make this project something more than an initiative to deliver applications and process, but things that caught your eye that excel?
Yeah. So one a couple of examples I have. One is as I may have mentioned like a couple of times, like the item categories. So and it's a standard extra. So what we are doing, like, I mean, when I say item category, people will think only category, but what we are doing, all the product related information, which is not maintained at the item category level, like customer item number, what is the primary raw material, whether it's a direct material or a toll material, whether it's secondary or excess, whether it's what's the alloy, and all that information, which is generally not maintained at the item category level. What we are doing, we have assigned all that information at the item category level, so that the standard extract sends that information to Oracle Planning Cloud. And then in Oracle Planning Cloud, we have defined the dimensions for all these different categories, so that you can slice and dice and filter your whatever you want to view based on that information. So suppose, for example, if salesperson receives a forecast from the customer, it might only have like the customer part number. Now, if you don't have that information, it will take more time to figure out what your part number is, then enter the forecast. So that was one of the very unique solution, I would say, because we didn't customize it a whole lot. We just by doing a very minor tweak in the system and putting all that information at the item category level, standard processes in eBusiness Suite and the Planning Cloud took care of that.
Mohit,
Yeah.
you know, I know one of the big challenges with the on-premise solutions was you kind of had a read, write,
Yeah.
you know, kind of a multiple cycle.
Yeah.
Did that change significantly since, you know, everything, the supply, the demand, the S&OP, that's all on one platform? Did that help that at all? You know, without having to, you know, do a demand statement, then pass that over to supply and then batch the supply. I mean, did that help?
Yeah, so we have actually configured Oracle Planning Cloud in such a way that the forecast cannot be updated for the next 2 months, so that it remains static, so that nobody can update that. And for the near terms, our supply plans remains within the so whatever the purchase orders are out there, we don't want to like change them. We want to firm that, and like so we just stopped by configuring the measures and allowing this and configuring the system not to allow the updates for those ones. And because we are doing like the measure copy from S&OP, so we are taking the most recent information for the future months from the TM forecast and planning based on that.
Okay.
So to answer your question, like back and forth has stopped a lot.
Yeah, if I could add to that, you know, we talk a lot at Worthington about forecast accuracy, and kind of a shift of thinking is forecast accuracy one day out doesn't really help you. It needs a couple months out. Because for our business, lead times, you know, ordering steel, like GM orders steel, whether it's on a contract or a spot buy, there's 4 to 6 week lead time. So the better our planning is, our forecasting and planning is, then obviously our inventory is better and our scheduling is better. So it really starts with a solid plan.
Excellent. And that's kind of actually, Matt, that's a good segue into a question for you really to think about. You know, you mentioned Chemleys, you mentioned, you know, forecast accuracy, kind of how do you see your future strategy into cloud as, you know, as the strategic leader of this initiative, as well as many others that I've had the luxury of working with you on, and why did you decide to go with Argonaut in this particular scenario as well?
Well, our future is to continue to exploit cloud products, and we're going to do that carefully. Our business is pleased with the functionality they have today. We just want to enhance it, and then what's really the power is every quarter there's new functionality coming out. So the people that really drive our business and the stakeholders, which was touched on earlier, we have great stakeholders for this project, and that was paramount to any project is great stakeholders. But they, you know, configure, price, quote's been around a little bit longer, and they leverage quarter release functionality all the time. So that's our approach. As far as Argonaut goes, you know, we started a relationship 2014, something like that. And we've been leveraging you for integration. So we do a lot of acquisitions. We leveraged you for our HCM implementation, which was a big undertaking. And to a point now that we have an acquisition, we can just put them on HCM without a tremendous amount of work. And Greg, you remember this from the first time we started working together. We were looking for a partnership, not a transaction. And that's the approach we'd like to take. And for anybody listening, Argonaut helps us. They don't win everything, but they do help us, and they've been a good partner.
Yeah, I appreciate that. In 2014, it's amazing how neither of us have aged over that period of time. All right, so Doug, I'm going to hit you with one, and maybe if you could talk to us a little bit about, how did Argonaut and Oracle work together, before, and like the selling and the solutioning that happened as Worthington was visioning this, and then through the implementation and the strategies about making sure the product works for Worthington, which is the most important thing in any implementation, is that our client is successful.
Yeah, it's always it's always a challenge, right? If you treat those, kind of the upfront process to educate a customer on a solution, and the implementation then happens, sometimes if they're too disconnected, you leave a lot of opportunity on the floor and you introduce some risk. And, I've had the fortunate opportunity to work with Argonaut, you and many others there in a number of substantial engagements, really from a solution just in the supply chain here to cross ERP projects. And what I appreciated was that you supported and really didn't interrupt some of those preconditions that I highlighted previously. And I think there was a strong willingness to collaborate to make sure that the overall process really turned out to be a win-win-win, across everybody. These are complex projects. It can be tough to find companies like Argonaut that have the ability to work like a small, intimate firm, but also engage with resources like a much larger firm. And I think you guys have threaded the needle when I've had the opportunity to work with you. And I'm certainly glad you were engaged deeply with Matt and the team at Worthington.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, it has been an honor. I look at Worthington as almost it's just the kind of organization you want to work with when you have a project and when you don't, right? If there's just questions and what are we seeing out in the industry, what are we working on, and how can they think about things that we're working on? It's just been an honor. I'll ask Matt and Mohit, if you want to talk a little bit about the after story. So we're live, and any aha moments that have come up for you to think about in terms of.
Yeah, I can start, and then it's also in some of the questions. I don't know where we would be in this world in terms of our supply chain disruption. Transportation's expensive. We do a lot of trucking, obviously. Having solid plans, a $900 a ton swing on the cost of a ton of steel. There's a lot of factors that, if we didn't have a solid planning and SNOP process, demand handling and SOP process, who knows what we'd be faced with right now. The other thing I want to add, it's in the questions too, it's not just cloud products, it's integration cloud. And we leverage Oracle Integration Cloud a lot. And so as you can imagine, we have a lot of integrations. I think HCM alone has 57, with benefit providers and Fidelity and E-Trade, name them all. Just have an integration cloud, where a platform we can leverage has been great. We used to be old SOA Beeple days. This is a lot different and a lot easier to integrate. But Mohit, if you want to add anything from a business perspective.
Yeah, from the business perspective, definitely the days of inventory, like where the inventory holding cost has reduced a lot. So from where we were having the average age of inventory, which was in 3 digits, has come down to 2 digits now in some of our plants, or in most of our plants. So that is definitely a win-win. And as Matt mentioned, because of the price swings in the steel commodity, like we don't want to hold the inventory for long because of the inventory holding gains and losses. So if it is coming down, we want to keep reducing it till we hit whatever goals are. And that is definitely a very big win for us, because inventory holding losses can be huge. With like if it has come down from 1,500 to 600, like $900 a ton, that can be huge. So that has definitely improved a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like the accuracy of forecast and a strong planning engine results in optimal inventory levels. Without a lot of manual offline processes and things like that. Matt, any quantifiable metrics that come to mind in terms of above and beyond inventory turns and forecast accuracy? Anything else that you see?
There's some things like instead of going monthly S&OP, we do weekly. If you really wanted to, we could go daily. The messaging that Mohit mentioned, there's so many messages that weren't accurate, so they just ignored them all. A lot of that's gone away. We still, we have a price desk. We do some hedging, not a lot. We don't speculate. That really helps with not just the planning side, but the purchasing side. And then like I said, downstream with just minimizing WIP. Stop interrupting a process because we have a rush order. Just the planning makes it a lot cleaner than what we used to have.
Gotcha. Plan adherence because it's a quality plan. That's good. You've been around as long as I have, so I'm going to guess you've seen quite a few on-premise implementations, and you've seen the transition from way back in the day to mainframe type applications all the way through now to the cloud applications. Not just the software, but also the way things are delivered. Anything that strikes you as about how the difference of a cloud project is versus the more traditional stuff that we used to do?
Yeah, legacy has been around longer, obviously, and the product is pretty solid. Oracle's a big company, and you have to navigate the old SR process. A little more challenging on the cloud side, just whether it's a performance issue or functionality that we expected. So you really got to plan ahead from, is the product viable for your business, minimize anything as much as possible. That to me is the biggest part. And then on our side, product ownership, stakeholder ownership it's more important than ever. It's not, we upgrade every 5 years. It's, we can exploit this product every quarter. So if your stakeholder has to be fully invested to really take advantage of these cloud products.
Yeah, very good point. Keep things on point. So, Kate, we've kind of come through, a significant number of questions, and I'm not sure how we want to launch into any sort of the listeners if they have questions for us as well.
Yeah, we actually have quite a few in the chat, so let me open that up and ask a few of those. So, let's see here. How is the integration from EBS to cloud GOP working, and what are the issues you are facing, and any learnings or suggestions?
Well, you want to talk about GOP?
Yeah, so Argano has a product for that one, for that integration for Oracle e-business suite to cloud GOP. And we are also using the same as well. So definitely Oracle does not provide anything to integrate cloud GOP with the e-business suite. And we are leveraging for the integration platform, the Oracle Integration Cloud. And if you want to in detail, then it's the integration based on the business event. Whenever the sales order gets booked, we send a call to GOP to provide us the dates, and it's all integrated, and it takes like less than a second to return us the dates for that specific sales order, and that gets updated in the system. Now the learning from that one is we didn't account for a lot of different other scenarios that what if the order was booked, a new line is entered, or the line is canceled. So we did that. We enhanced those functionalities later during the project. But if you can build all the specific scenarios ahead of the time, then I guess the integration works just fine. We haven't seen like much of the issues with that integration.
Great. Thank you, Mohit. So we've got another one here. Can you elaborate more on what you did to bring the financial goals to SCM? Did you have to break the financial forecast and product categories? For example, did you create categories for aggregating data to relate to the financials?
So I can take that one. So I mean, we don't have any revenue specific figures in our Oracle Planning Cloud. So we don't send the price list and all that related data in there. But regarding financial goals, yes, we do have that in Oracle Planning Cloud, but that's not based on the dollar value. That's based on the weight of the steel, what we are forecasting to ship. So suppose in one plant, if we are forecasting that we'll be shipping 20,000 tons in this month, then we measure our financial goal based on that. Now, pricing, definitely we do not have. And we don't send this data. So all this forecast of fiscal year, I would say all this financial forecast for the current fiscal and the next fiscal, that is being entered manually. We don't enter it in EBS and then send it over to Oracle Planning Cloud. All the demand planners and our sales reps enter that information directly in Oracle Planning Cloud in SLOP. Does that answer the question?
We speak in tons.
Yeah, tons.
Not dollars, tons shipped.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Here's a good one. How did you determine what focus area to move to cloud first? Move finance first, followed by supply chain or supply planning?
Yeah, so that's a great question because you ask anybody and they all have a different answer. For us, it's more demand to build. So we have some marketing software called HubSpot, right? That identifies potential customers. And we have Sales Cloud and Salesforce Automation manages the sales pipeline. Then, keep me honest here, then that's integrated with how we do planning, which is then integrated with how we quote up to the quote letter, right? And GOP. And then our next one is either order management or procurement. So we're doing it more from demand to build than any other direction. And could have we done financials first? We could have. The other thing too is it's not always up to IT to pick the direction, right? They don't see a burning platform in financials. They see, a lot of need from a planning and inventory management perspective.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, just working on multiple projects per year, we see a couple of different flavors. Worthington took a path of net present value or the business benefit to the deployment of the cloud strategy, right? So you guys had, some planning had real tangible results to measure at the end. Sometimes things like finance are harder to drive, business benefits. So we see our customers out there in the marketplace going through this question, and some will pick finance because it's a low risk move. Others will do like Worthington, which is, hey, let's focus on a business process area that's going to yield real benefits, real money benefits to us in the long term.
Okay, thanks. We've got one more here. Can you discuss, is there any more Oracle Cloud in your future? What does your roadmap look like?
Yeah, so for us, it's interesting. We're in the middle of going all cloud for one of our recent acquisitions. So, and then from there, ideally, we take those lessons learned and continue our cloud journey at our steel division. So we have an acquisition about a year old. They're on 11.510. They know they need to do something. They're in 5 countries. So we are going to leverage what we've already done with the team we already have, and then either go an all cloud solution with a cloud roadmap. So we may not do everything day one, and then take those learnings back to steel, our steel division, and continue that journey.
Excellent. All right, and then I think Mohit touched on this briefly earlier, but is there an integration with EBS that Oracle offers that you were able to leverage in implementing this solution?
So there is no integration as such, but Oracle does provide patches for your e-business suite version, which you can apply. So it will install some, like a bunch of concurrent programs in e-business suite, which you can schedule to send the data over. But again, like the files will get generated in the directory, and then you have to move those files from there to Oracle Planning Cloud. So that is the only integration which you have to do, the file transfer. Other than that, like if you want to tweak your data prior to sending it to Planning Cloud, yes, that will be a customization which you have to do on your own or the implementers. But as far as extract is concerned, everything is a standard. All the views queries are provided by Oracle with that patch, and yeah, the only thing which we have to write is just send the files or transfer the files, I would say.
Yeah, and then Argonaut has things like the GOP integration that we talked about on the Oracle Marketplace, and so you can rely on your SI to help you with those patches and the dependencies related to those patches, as well as any pre-built content that we have as well.
Great. Well, the questions keep coming, you guys. Here's one. Were you using sales and operation execution process for demand sensing and fluctuations in the steel prices to optimize supply plan? Any best practices?
So right now we are not neither the sales and operation execution, or we haven't defined a lot of causal in our demand plan as well. But definitely it's in our roadmap to define a lot of causal factors to smooth our demand further.
Yeah,
okay.
I would add, especially now, like big auto, even for them, it's hard to plan.
Yeah.
So they may make orders and then cancel them last minute. Part of it's the economy uncertain and what they have planned, but we're a supplier, quote unquote, so it's a lot of work with our major customers to really get a solid demand plan put in place.
This is kind of wide-reaching, but can you say anything about current state of economy in regards to the supply chain?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit. The current state of supply chain means we need to be really, really good at planning and somewhat nimble. We don't want to sit on a bunch of inventory. At the same time, we want to be short on inventory either. How we price to our customers, sometimes it's based on it's called CRU index. So our customers know what we pay for steel. So we potentially could sell a contract based on CRU index. So if steel really drops, our customers, can feel the benefit of the lower prices, and then if it goes up, they understand the increase in our prices. So it's pretty transparent. As the state of our economy, I'm not an economist. I don't want to pretend to be one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all should go out and buy Worthington steel, right? Help But I'll just tell you too, just talking to the different supply chain leaders and IT leaders like Matt, that supply chain disruption is pervasive, right? So we've never seen more. If you think about just product shipments and partials and Matt talked about filling orders in full, or OTIF, on time and in full. That's a big focus, and that's part of how these cloud implementations are getting scoped, is to address things like that, because your suppliers have longer lead times and they can't ship you everything you order, and your customers, you have the same issue. Whoever asked that question, that there's never been more of a need for good, solid planning and supply chain execution solutions.
One thing, Craig kind of prompted something in my head, but it's interesting, like on-time delivery is very important for our plants, but at the cost of carrying a lot of inventory, you really got to think about your metrics. Are they comprehensive metrics versus competing metrics?
That's right.
Well, all right, that concludes our Q&A. Since we have a couple of minutes left, I wanted to just mention that we have an upcoming event called Digital Foundation Days. This is, it's a 2-hour virtual event. It's gonna bring in top brass from Oracle and Argano, and we will be discussing just different industry strategies, and there will be 10 different breakout sessions that dive into the industry initiatives and sales strategies, and basically it's far-reaching for all the Oracle solutions. We'll hit on ERP, EPM, SCM, HCM, CX, and OCI. So we'll include that in our follow-up with the recording, and hope you can join us. And again, thank you for attending today. We really appreciate it. After the closing of the webcast, there'll be a window that pops up with a complimentary assessment offering you if there's any interest in evaluating a move to cloud. So again, thank you for attending, and we look forward to having you join us again in the future. Take care.
And thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you, Worthington. I really appreciate this.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.